Liberals have a very serious problem. And that problem is that they've adopted a set of rules. Um, let's call them positive sum rules. They've adopted a set of positive sum rules and the attitudes that go along with it, which is, to look generously towards other people, to rejoice in their success as well as your own success, to not try and make yourself look bigger by making other people look smaller. All of these things are part of a liberal ethos, to let other people be free so that you can be free. Um, and they all work when they are encountering people willing to be played by those rules. So when you get a critical mass, and I'll leave the critical mass undefined, but when you get a critical mass of people who are ready to move over, not to, doing this all the time, but I would say even, if they're batting .333, if a third of their interactions with others are positive sum, then you can try launching a democracy. You can try launching a society that grants its people the freedom to act responsibly, rather than telling them what to do, as in a traditional society. But what happens is, when a society that's working really well according to these principles, and being very productive and innovative and reforming things, trying to improve things and so on, modern democracies, when they encounter a culture that is really dedicated to a zero-sum ethos, it is not only difficult for them to see it, let's say, again, from the moral narcissism, it's not only difficult for them to see it, but they almost can't afford to see it. They need the other side to be ready to play their game. They fall into the trap of masochistic omnipotence syndrome. And what that means is that it's all our fault, and if only we could do better, everything would be all right. So if my positive sum overtures to this person from a different culture aren't working, then it's my fault, not their fault. And as a result, if I can be better, then they will respond appropriately, which ultimately takes all agency away from the other side. Everything's a function of me. If things are good, it's because I'm doing good. If things are bad, it's because I'm doing bad. The other person really isn't an agent, which is a deep flaw in this kind of thinking. But in any case, it's very tempting to engage in this kind of thinking, because when we run up against real hostility, like 9/11, there were some people who said, what's wrong with this society that they produce people like this? And there were other people who said, what did we do wrong that they hate us so? Now, it's important to ask, have I done something wrong? Fact is that, when it comes to infidels' treatment of Muslims, historically speaking, America has probably the best record of any Western nation. The French, the English have slaughtered and tortured and conquered millions of Muslims. British in India, the French in Algeria, and so on. Really nasty stuff. Nothing compared to what Americans have done to Muslims. So the idea that what we did is why they hate us is a perfect example of this kind of this liberal paradox of not being able to let go of both your sense of yourself as a good person, and therefore you are obliged to treat everybody else as a good person. And this leads to, a major way in which human rights organizations in particular are enormously they're enormously vulnerable to the appeal of what I call demopaths. A demopath is somebody who will use the language of democracy, civil rights, human rights, humanity, all of this as a way to appeal for their own rights, when in fact, in any case where it's up to them to grant rights to other people, they don't do it at all. So they're not committed to these values. They use them in order to, in the words of one practitioner of the art, use democracy to destroy democracy. Now, liberals don't want to believe that anybody would want to destroy democracy, because we all agree it's the best system in the world. We like it. So if only other people understood, they'd like it. And certainly we're more successful, so everybody wants to be like us, so we must be the right thing. So they can't believe that we actually have enemies. We actually have people who would like to destroy the democracies that we've created. And as a result, we feel almost obliged morally not to question their bona fides, not to say, are you lying? Not to challenge them and say, wait a minute, you want this kind of recognition of your rights, and are you willing to grant the same thing to somebody else? And then you find out that for a variety of reasons, they're not. And the question is, you know, can you hold the line, or are you going to buckle under and say, oh, well, if you don't want to extend those rights to this person because they've done you a wrong, and you're so convinced that they've done you that wrong that they're guilty and you have a right to destroy them, I have to go along with that? Well, the liberal finds himself compelled to concede the argument, to concede to the narrative. The victim's narrative has priority. So you go from a system where in tribal society it's my side, right or wrong. My side, if my cousin got in a fight with somebody else, I don't care whether it was his fault that the fight was started, I'm on his side. He's my boy. So my side, right or wrong, and your side, always wrong. Civil society, civil polities, democracies, a discourse of equity and fairness arises when you say, whoever is right, my side or not. Now, that's not always easy to do, and, you know, it's perfectly normal for people every once in a while, when it's really deeply felt like family, that you say, my side, right or wrong. It's not 100% whoever's right, but that's what courts are there for, to decide, and we accept the decisions of the courts even if we don't like them. But now we have this postmodern liberal paradoxical variant which says their side right or wrong, my side always wrong. So if they claim that we've done terrible things to them, then it's our obligation to accept the accusation. And you end up with a kind of a marriage of pre-modern sadism and postmodern masochism. You end up with people saying, you've done terrible things to my people, I hate your guts and I want to destroy you, and I'm so furious that I want to blow up your twin towers and kill as many of your civilians as I can, and it enrages me that you are still around because you're so awful. And we say, you're right, I'm sorry. So, you know, that's not the kind of dialogue we should be having in this situation. And yet, because liberals can't challenge people they feel that historically their ancestors have wronged, you, for a variety of reasons, all of which need to be examined and confronted, but this constant concession, this constant effort to placate the other, to say, yes, 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 I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, now can we get on with our lives? And the fact is that for them, getting on there with their lives is destroying us. So we're not getting where we think we're getting. We're, in fact, from their point of view, behaving exactly as they would have us behave, namely as intimidated people who concede all of their aggressions.